oh, I want you to find Jesus. I want you to find Christ and find God and be a faithful Christian like I am. But you have to detransition because I just can't agree with your lifestyle. I love and respect you though. I hope you're going to come to the realization that you need to be a man. That is Christian support, Christian love. Before I talk about like the quote-unquote Nyara's anti-DIY and fear-mongering about DIY situation, I want to talk about like something else. I want to talk about a content creator by the name of Leaflet. They made a video about me. Leaflet made a video about me. I saw the thumbnail. I knew what it was about. You know, like I know the situation. I know the tweets. I know how people were getting really offended at me. I don't want to like necessarily talk about like Leaflet and like, you know, how it's just a grift and whatnot. I want to talk about like something else that goes beyond it. But I think I want to give like a little bit of context, you know, why I'm talking about this. And I saw this thumbnail. These people are evil R-word. Learn the title. Perfect. This is Darling Strop, or also known, you know, with the alt account Shy Ichigo, being like, I love trans people, hope they find God. And my avatar apparently saying, I hate you and hope you die. Something I obviously would never say. I want to talk about the, oh, I love and respect trans people. I hope they find God. I was like, I love how Christians going, I don't want trans people to be trans and I need them to hide in the closet for my sake, is seen as supportive of trans people. Besides the blatant misrepresentation of me is my favorite part of Leaflet's thumbnail, right? With the stare. Obviously, if you're a trans person, we know how the support, quote-unquote support of so-called Christians looks like. Strop has said multiple times things like, oh, trans kids do not exist. Oh, it's just grooming. She also used to be liberal, right? I wasn't very liberal. I just attended pride parades, thought children could be trans, even prepared for LGBT kids in my future classrooms. With LGBT books, my professors assigned us. Saw nothing wrong with abortion, even though I would say I don't think I'd have one myself. Now she's a Christian wife, a traditional wife. You know, she's the wife of Rev Says Desu, who is also very Christian, very anti-woke, very vocal about his traditional values of like cosplaying a anime girl on the internet and spreading harmful rhetoric about like trans people, like the LGBTQ community in general, people of color and so on, sending a lot of like harassment in these people's ways. You know, also like targeting me, being like, Yara is a groomer, never leaving the kids alone. Actually, a lot of the shit that I have to deal with originates from Rev Says Desu, who posted about this, and I called it out back then. You know, like this was the first tweet being like, activists in the VTubing scene have gone completely masked off. How does anyone justify this behavior? And this was like my thumbnail, my tweet being like, trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Obviously very rage baity, very clickbaity in order to like, you know, play into that trope and so on. So this kind of like spiraled things out of control, and Rev came after me again. But that time I didn't hide. I started arguing. There was, you know, one of my first bigger videos was me talking about the situation, explaining why it's transphobic, why it's like this. Also like highlighting the transphobia of like Darling Strop, who was saying things like, oh, it is social contagion. Oh, they are brainwashing kids into being trans and so on. Stuff like that. The video is actually like this one. Let trans kids be trans. They were also upset at this thumbnail, by the way, why trans education matters. Like, you can still watch it. I just changed the thumbnail because, you know, it's a little bit too rage baity. I did this video, Rev Says Desu hates me, the transphobia of Rev Says Desu and Darling Strop. Every now and then I see tweets from Strop or, you know, Shy Ichigo talking about the fact that, oh, trans kids do not exist. It is just brainwashing and so on. Trans children are not normal. We should not be confusing children. You should do better, not me. Referring to like, what is wrong with having trans characters in a TV show? Also, you always see tweets like, oh, the problem is we aren't seen as humans. We are dehumanized every chance they get. Nice fascist racists, you know? Like, obviously, these people are, you know, calling me a groomer and whatnot in order to like dehumanize me. They are saying that like being trans is like an ideology, calling it transgenderism in order to dehumanize us and to basically make it okay in order to preach. That is like the main point, the main focus of these things. When Strop says something like, remember that you will never please everyone, not even close, so always be yourself, don't change who you are just to please other people. What she means by that is, as long as you're like a racist, white supremacist, Christian nationalist, then you shouldn't change for other people. But if you're a trans person, then you need to hide in the closet because you are sinful, you're engaging in the sin if you're acting on the fact that you're trans and you have gender dysphoria. So you gotta hide and whatnot. And Strop, the saint that she is praying that you're going to find God and you're going to start realizing that you're on a wrong path by actually wanting to live as your authentic self and transitioning in order to basically improve your gender dysphoria and mental health issues and whatnot. Never change if you share my worldview. Exactly. So that is a huge issue. That is something that I've called out many times. You also see tweets from Strop. Wives should submit to their husbands, and husbands should do everything they possibly can to make their wives feel appreciated, loved, and safe. This is how you get a happy marriage. Conservative women are grooming victims. There's no other reason why someone would believe that a woman is inherently inferior and needs to be subservient than social conditioning. This also explains why Strop is transphobic. You know, she knows her place in society. Why don't we? Many such cases. We also, you know, every now and then saw like tweets of like ref sisters being like, oh, I can't believe the people who say they're never going to leave kids alone are calling my wife grooming victims. Right? Obviously, you know, he's still upset with me because I do not face repercussions and backlash like he imagines I should face for saying that like trans kids exist and they do deserve like a loving environment.
Good girl.
And they do deserve to feel, you know, loved and appreciated, and they deserve access to healthcare. They shouldn't have to fear for their lives just by, you know, coming out as trans. People shouldn't celebrate their sides. Anyways, like, obviously, I do not face backlash for these things, but he faces a lot of backlash for his, like, anti-woke and like hateful rhetoric and so on. And yeah, if you're conditioned that you're weaker because you're born female, you gotta be subservient for the male who is biologically stronger, needs to be like the provider and takes care of you. When we know that like, you know, most men are abusive to women, the majority of men are abusive to women, especially in these conservative spaces. That is why, you know, the social conditioning, this brainwashing, this like, oh, you are born this way, so this is your path, this is what you have to do. You're going to grow up and you're going to be a wife, a subservient, loyal wife to your husband, to your man who is going to take care of you. And all you need to do is take care of the kids, take care of the household, take care of your man, fulfill all his needs, and be quiet. And, you know, when he beats you, you gotta just turn the other cheek if he slaps you, right? You are misbehaving, you gotta be put in your place. An unruly woman needs to be controlled by a man, right? This is like Christian ideology. This is brainwashing of like a religious and doctrine, right? And that is what we are like referring to when we say these things. And especially if you're like, oh, I used to be a liberal, I used to be like very supportive of trans people, I used to have trans friends and so on. No, nobody likes me in the anime community and the VTuber community anymore. Like, what happened? And it's just drifting further and further to like the extreme of like, oh, trans people actually don't exist. They're just, you know, grooming victims. Trans kids don't exist. They're just like mentally ill and, you know, need to be like put into conversion camps to be fixed. Something like that, right? I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But if you know a little bit of like about the substance and like what people like that are throwing your way, you kind of get to the point where you interpret these things that way. But yeah, so I saw this tweet. I do love and respect trans people. I just fundamentally disagree with them on their identity. They are entitled to live how they wish. If they are adults, but I still disagree with it, I would never try to force them to agree with me though. Free will and all that jazz. I love and respect trans people, I just don't want them to be trans. I just don't think a trans woman is a woman. They are entitled to believe that a trans woman is a woman, but like obviously, you know, Trump actually declared that there are only just two genders and it's the same as sex. So this is like phrased as supportive. This is phrased as supportive. So I was like, there's a reason why we call Straub a grooming victim. Christianity is often incredibly predatory and can be weaponized to turn good people into hateful freaks, especially if you have been conditioned to believe the authoritarian doctrine at a young age. This is harsh, right? Like out of the blue, out of like nowhere, this is harsh, right? Right? 470,000 impressions. Jesus. It made a lot of people mad because like, oh wait, you know, she's just supportive. I said that I love trans people and respect trans people as human beings. I just don't want them to be trans. And now you are saying that like, this is bad. Yeah, I love and respect Christians. I just don't want them to be Christian. I don't want them to indoctrinate their children with, you know, the religion stuff. Like, I can make this argument and it's going to be way more convincing and based in truth than saying that like, oh, I love and respect left-handed people. I just don't want them to be left-handed. I don't want them to teach children that it's okay to be left-handed. I want them to be forced to write with their right hand because that makes me more comfortable. That is the same level that like, you know, these Christians are arguing. When we talk about like these things, then we're actually genuinely talking about like an indoctrination about like, you know, religious doctrine and a ideology. Christianity is an ideology. Being trans is not. I used to be a left-handed enjoyer, but yeah, I just woke up one day and I realized that like being left-handed is actually like a sign that you're possessed with a demon and you need to be exorcised, actually. You need to get locked into like a labor camp where you're going to get forced to learn to write with your right hand. And if you do anything with your left hand, it's going to get cut off. Like, that is what, like, is being phrased as, like, support. Fucking crazy. There was also, like, this thing before I saw this about Darling Straub talking about Blair White. Blair White being a Christian and whatnot. And I gotta find this one. Okay, what I was talking about was Strawberry on her, like Darling Straub on her alt account ages ago being like, let's pray for Blair. If he could detransition, this would be so huge. Not only for his life, but for so many others too. God wants him to embrace who he really is. Because Blair White being like, yes, I'm trans, yes, I'm a Christian, my faith journey. This is what I mean by Christian support. Being like, oh, I want you to find Jesus, I want you to find Christ and find God and be a faithful Christian like I am. But you have to detransition because I just can't agree with your lifestyle. I love and respect you though. I'm rooting for you. I'm so glad. I hope you're going to come to the realization that you need to be a man. You're born a man. God made you a man. You have to be a man. That is Christian support, Christian love. This is literally what I'm always like referring to. Why I'm so fucking mad at like that. And when people are like, oh, I love trans people, I hope they find God. I know all of these things. So obviously, I'm going to make a tweet and be like, Christianity is often incredibly predatory and can be weaponized to turn good people into hateful freaks. Obviously, I'm going to be fucking pissed at this shit. Because they are phrasing it as support every single time. But this is their support. This is their love. This is their unconditional love. This is why I struggle with Christianity. Especially with people weaponizing Christianity in order to shield themselves from criticism and hide their bigotry and justify it as well. I do not want left-handed people to live. They live, you know, against my God. They need to find Jesus and come to their senses and find out that like everybody is born right-handed and needs to be right-handed. And the demons are just trying to convince them that they have to be left-handed. They say this shit about gay people. They say it about like autistic people and also trans people. Oh, you don't need to transition. You don't need to like give in to your temptation, right? That's always like the thing. I do not have this struggle. I do not need to like compensate, right? Like I don't have to like fight the fact that I'm like born in the wrong body and I'm like gender dysphoric and so on. So you should just like stomach that. right? In order to make me feel comfortable. It's ableism all over, you know, it's basically being like, why do you need assistance? I struggle sometimes getting out of bed. I struggle sometimes with my back pain. Why are you complaining about like your chronic issues? You're just weak. Like if you have sometimes back pain, you don't realize how you take it for granted every single day that you can wake up without back pain, but you're going to feel it really bad sometimes. You're going to feel back pain really bad, and then it goes away. For some people, it's persistent, and they constantly need to like get over the fact that they struggle with that. If there was something to relieve that back pain, instead of just like, you know, brushing it off and like stomaching it, why not do it? This is like gender dysphoria. You have a constant sense, the constant distress of your gender identity not matching with your body's sex. People perceive you differently, and it's just causing you distress, a constant pain. Cis people do not have this constant pain, this constant distress. They do not have to like brush it down. They don't have to just like get used to it, because there is nothing. Maybe a cis guy sometimes wishes, oh yeah, I would like to, you know, see what it's like for women, but it's not like a persistent thing every single day, every waking moment. And then you can do things transitioning in order to help with that. And your environment makes it even harder. And then it's like, what is the point? And they phrase it as love. You're trying to stray away from the righteous path, so everybody needs to bully you and get you in line again. You need to be a sheep and follow the orders of the imaginary deity. So obviously, with like all of these things put together, denying the existence of trans children, saying it's not normal, attacking me the entire time, calling me a groomer, or whatnot, going after, you know, someone like Blair White, saying, like, misgendering, saying that she should detransition in order to find the light, constantly boosting people who are racist, endorsing people like Donald Trump, being pro-MAGA, saying things like wives should submit to their husbands. All of these things put together, obviously, I'm a little bit mad. So I saw this. I didn't watch the video. I don't care about the video. Most likely, it is just the same being like, oh my god, I can't believe that like Yara would be like so offended by someone saying that they love and respect trans people but just don't agree with their lifestyle. But then I saw something. Leaflet changed the thumbnail. I love trans people, even though I disagree with them. I hope they find God and save their souls. Simon, nobody respects you, you fake R-word. This is also fake. This tweet in of itself, yet doesn't exist like that. Too. And then making me say, there's a reason why we call Straub a grooming victim. Christianity is often incredibly predatory. Anyways, let's transition children. Something that I never said. Something that I would never say. I looked for something. You know, I want trans children to have education, like representation is in general important, not just for trans kids to know that it's okay to be trans and, you know, to have like something that they can resonate with, something that can make them feel less alone with their struggles, but also to just like normalize it for cis kids to see, oh, somebody can be trans, somebody can be non-binary, you know, like it's important. Representation is important in order to like go against like the demonization, dehumanization and whatnot, right? Obviously. I also want them to have the ability to, you know, have like a safe environment, not get like ostracized by their environment, kicked out by their family and whatnot. I also want them to have access to healthcare, especially trans healthcare. Nothing more harmful for like a trans girl to go through male puberty and see her body change in ways that are causing more distress, that are irreversible. When we have something like puberty blockers, which are safe, they're being used to treat precocious puberty all the time. Why not give a trans kid or a gender questioning kid time before rushing them into irreversible changes, right? Obviously, that's really beneficial. If I was younger, if I had like a safe environment, that is what I wish I had as a kid, right? I used to be a trans kid. I know what it feels like to see your body change, to drift further and further away from, you know, where you want to be. I talked about this like many times. And if you're like on puberty blockers, you're, I don't know, like 12, and then you work with like experts, multiple pediatricians, endocrinologists, therapists, and so on. And then after like a year, 2 years or something, then you can go on HRT. If that is even like still the right path for you, you still have like the option to you know, decide what is the right path, and can be like intervened at any moment. But yeah, like then you are not being like rushed into anything. You don't have irreversible changes, but apparently that is like grooming, that is dangerous, evil, experimentation, right? That's how it's like justified, being like, oh, it's natural for a male to go through male puberty. Yeah, go fuck yourself. I thought this is incredibly wild, especially because Leaflet has a trans sibling. So it was like, Leaflet changed the thumbnail, but it's even more disingenuous by faking a tweet to make me say, quote unquote, let's transition children. I hope the money you make by crafting and normalizing transphobia is funding your trans siblings' transition. This is the original tweet, by the way. If you want to push transphobia at Leaflet and capitalize off of hating trans people, then at least be honest. Saying I'm actively participating in helping children transition is incredibly dangerous. You're harming your own sibling with this. With the tweet attached to it. I personally thought that this is just disingenuous, and it's really crazy, and it's sad. Trop is just like a small being who loves everyone and wants everybody to be like how she imagines God wants them to be. And this is being phrased as like support. And like these disingenuous like phrasings and whatnot. If the thumbnail is already like clickbaity, if the title is using like ableist slurs, I can imagine that the video is also like disingenuous. Obviously, I do not want to send hate anyone's way. Please do not do this. As a trans person, I get enough hate. I don't want my community to give that back. I just want to educate. I just want to make certain things clearer, and also talk a lot about like the misconceptions that are happening, because I believe maybe, you know, this is just like a better strategy, but it's incredibly difficult. But, you know, what do you expect from the slavery is back thumbnail?